And even as I say this, I'm actually going a bit too deep, but you know, old habits die hard. You know what I mean? Hello, you dirty potters. How are you today? Today we continue the mug trade playlist with friend of the channel, Tim C. A lot of you probably know him just because you're in the ceramic art community, and a lot more of you from this channel specifically probably know him from the Ensika vlog that we did. He was the guy who meowed at the end of the video. He's actually one of the leaders of a Facebook group called Clay Buddy. He loves cats, or I think he is one? The main difference in artwork in between Tim and I is that Tim knows how to draw and he knows how to throw at the same time. As for I am more of a glaze chemist and form thrower, so I concentrate on a lot of forms and the glaze on the forms and how they interact with each other. As for Tim, we'll often make a cup and then draw this cute little robot on it, and well, you know, you gotta ask Tim about the robot. Long story short, there's no way I'm gonna be able to match Tim's style because I can't draw for anything. But I think I have an idea to make his mug just interesting enough to where he might appreciate it. I wanna make something a little bit out of the normal field. Turns out your boy's been developing glazes behind your back. It's me, I'm your boy. I mean, I'm not your boy, but you know, I'm your boy.
Oh God, you're so good.
The main thing that I've been into recently are making forms like this, that are a bit more organic, not really structured. Clearly they're still handmade, but they also look a little bit derivative of a rock, or maybe something in nature, and I've been really into this recently. Shout out to Alex Olson, the person who kind of geared me towards this art style. Fortunately for me, these are exceedingly easy to make considering that it's basically just a thicky cylinder that's been carved out. So I've been making a bunch of these. The cool part is these derive from these forms, where you just throw a thick cylinder, you carve them with something like this, which is just a bow tool. You wait until they dry into the leather or leather medium phase, and then you start carving them. But I want to do something a bit more special for Tim C. I want to do this exact same thing, but firstly, I want to do it with the type of mixed clay body, in which you've already seen me make on screen. I also want to make sure that he gets something that I've developed myself, something one of a kind and natural. I've been developing glazes for a little bit now, and I have a couple of them with my name on them, but one of them I haven't given the recipe to the public yet, and it's this one right here. So we're gonna see if we can fit this glaze on this clay body with this style to make it extra personal just for Tim. Keep in mind that if you're trying to reproduce these at home, you need about double, if not a little less, the amount of clay. So if you weigh out your clay, you'll know exactly how much clay you have. And also, you're not really pulling at all. When I was forming these, you probably noticed that I just straightened out the cylinder, did the spider pull technique, and then after that, I just straightened them out with a metal rib. These two are not realistically pulled whatsoever. That's because I want the clay body to be thick enough to survive the carving process. I want to go as deep as possible without going so deep that I create a hole inside the cup, which I have done before. Other than that, these forms are extremely easy to make and they're quite pleasurable considering I just made a thick cylinder and the rest of it is just up to random pattern. The other awesome part of making these is that I'm not going to attach any handles to this, or at least I don't think I am. So I'm going to leave these out because these are essentially going to be very large teacups for Tim.
Later.
Okay, so we've left these here overnight and they're pretty good to go. If you're looking to follow along at home or replicate this yourself, you want something that's a little bit more than leather medium. I can handle these around without any real repercussions. They don't bend if I push them too hard, nothing like that. And I can still put a nail mark in them, which is a pretty good sign for trimmable work. But as I've made this shape before, we're essentially looking for something like this. The only difference is I now need to put the texture in there. I'm going to put the texture in there first, and then I'm going to trim it, instead of most people thinking, trim it and then put the texture in. The reason for this is because I really like these undulations at the bottom of the teacup. As I'm trimming, the textures often kind of throw me off kilter, so it goes like this, it's all wibbly wobbly, timey-wimey, and I really like that type of natural texture. Here's the thing, here's the wildest thing you're ever going to hear from me. Usually I give pretty clear instructions and I'll repeat myself over and over again just to make sure people get the point. But for this technique, I actually don't have a way to do it. I just get a bow wire, I guess you would call it, a bow and arrow cutter thing, little pew pew. And we're just going to repeat this over and over again in different forms. So instead of up and down, we might do one that is side to side, like this. See? We might do one that has a little bit of twizzles while going sideways, like that. That gives us some really good texture right there. I'm also very fond of making these jagged edges, so I will often come here, stop, and pull outwards. If you stop and pull outwards just like this, it creates a really jagged edge just like this. Of course, this episode is specifically for Tim C's cup, but I can already see the slew of questions down there from people who like organic work being like, "What? How'd you do that?" I don't know why you sound like Mickey Mouse, you just do. But this is essentially how I do it. The other thing is that I've never really done a mixed in clay body technique, especially with porcelain like this before. So this is the first time that I'm actually doing this. But I knew that if I mixed together the clay body, let it dry fast enough, carved it in just such a way to where I can see the innards of the clay body, I would get these beautiful textures and colors right here. And I bet on a horse and I'm winning the race. The other thing I like to do, much like the other cups, is that I like to mess up the rim a little bit. I don't like this super straight rim. It doesn't go with the motif or it doesn't go with the profile of the piece. So generally speaking, I will leave a little bit of clay at the very top that is uncut. You can see it's very clean right there. And I will just take my bow, I will take my bow and I will just carve that out. It doesn't really do much, but it makes it look a little bit better to me. If you're doing this at home, don't go too deep. Just maybe go like 1 inch to a ½ inch. And even as I say this, I'm actually going a bit too deep, but you know, old habits die hard. You know what I mean? Gonna clean up the insides so that it has more of a pointy edge. And then we'll run them over later so that they have a smooth, rounded outside. I'm gonna wipe off the top a little bit. This way, we have a nice rounded lip for Tim to drink out of, so he doesn't cut himself from all the jagged edges I just made. And now for the backup one. Ooh, that was a deep one. That was a really deep one right there. I almost went through the clay body. Actually, I think I did go through the clay body. Oh no. It's okay. Maybe the glaze will cover it up. No! I'm kidding, the glaze will not cover it up. So we are going to get some slip, and we're gonna get a little artistically creative here. Yep. Why is this one spot a different color from the rest of the clay body? It was an artistic choice, of course. Some people call this cheating. I call it creative problem solving. Okay, that concludes part 1 of 2 of Tim See's Mug Trade. Thank you for joining us today. If you like these kind of videos or you have any suggestions of who you think I should mug trade with next, put them down in the comments below. I think for this one specifically, we're gonna leave the high majority of these clay bodies raw. Maybe not this one for obvious reasons, but this one right here has some really, really good texture and some really good marbleization. I feel like it would be sort of a crime to cover this up with any sort of glaze. And I put all this work in, you know, just imagine. We are now gonna let these dry super slowly Remember to click all the YouTube buttons. And I'll see you little dirty potters next week.
Thank you for your patronage.